Hi everybody, welcome. How's everybody doing? I'm doing pretty good today, and I am very excited to be showing you guys how to make this mitten design. So I'm so glad you guys are here. And of course, this is a live event, so as I'm walking everybody through how to create the mitten, I'm gonna be talking, about all the steps you need to know. I'm gonna be doing all the demo all the way through. Just definitely let me know if you guys have any questions or if there was something that you missed, or even if you just have comments or other things that will help other crafters, you can put all that stuff in the chat. That would be really awesome. And also, there is a free pattern associated with this event. So this is the Rock Candy Mittens. It's a free download, free to everybody. And you can go ahead and download it now so you can follow along as we're walking through the pattern. If you don't have time or don't feel like doing it now, you can definitely do it at any time later. It'll just still be here waiting for you. Okay, all right, well, welcome. Oh, looks like we've got a comment already coming in from Lori in Ohio. Hi, Lori. She says, hi Brenda, I'm having so much fun learning from you. I don't understand what the point of wrapping the working yarn around my finger is. Oh, okay. Is it just to help it around the hook? Or is there a bigger point to doing it? I want to be sure I'm not missing something. Okay, I bet you're talking about the way I hold my yarn. And we'll get into that a little bit more, I'll kind of circle back to that as I start working on stuff. But that is just how I hold my yarn. If that's not how you want to hold your yarn, you can hold it in any way that is comfortable for you. The reason that I hold it that way is because that's easy. That's the way that feels the most comfortable to me, and I am able to get the tension that I need on the yarn. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as I start working my way through, but that was a good question. You might, if you watch other people, demonstrate things, or other crocheters or whatever, lots of people hold their yarn in all kinds of different ways. There's no wrong way to do it as long as, your stitches are working for you and everything seems comfortable. You just do it however you want to do it. You don't have to do it the way I do it. Okay, all right, you guys. I love making mittens. I don't know why. I've never had like the second mitten problem. You know how people talk about second sock syndrome or whatever, where you make one thing and then you don't ever feel like making the second half of it to create the pair. For some reason, I don't have that problem with mittens. I think I just really love mittens, and usually when I'm making mittens, I'm making them out of a heavier weight yarn, like a worsted weight or sometimes even a bulky, so they seem to go really quick. These mittens are very simple. The construction is very simple. And the stitches are, they're easy to do. It's fairly repetitive, so you can just kind of focus on where you need to put shaping, but this is not a difficult project. I would say this is like advanced beginner or intermediate project, but I don't want to scare anyone away. If you're like, ooh, do you think I could do that? Well, of course you can. You just have to, have a little more patience with yourself when you're learning the stitches and, kind of soaking up all the information as you go. So, the cool thing about this stitch pattern, okay, so actually we have two stitch patterns going on here. This stitch pattern down here, this is a very stretchy, elastic stitch pattern. It weirdly looks so much like a 1x1 knit ribbing. Like it looks like knitting down here to me, and it really returns to shape very well compared to lots of other kinds of ribbings that I've tried in crochet. So this is one of my favorites. I always kind of come back to this one. And then this, so this is done with a yarn over slip stitch. Worked in the back loop, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And then the main section of the mitten here, the body of the mitten as I like to call it, this is made in something called a knotted double crochet. So this is, or if you work back and forth and turn rows, sometimes the stitch is called the herringbone half double crochet. So it's the same motion. But this is worked all in the round, and it creates a very, very textured, nubbly stitch pattern. That's why I called it the rock candy mitts, because it's so bumpy it reminded me of rock candy. But the cool thing about this is, even though it's kind of grippy and bumpy and kind of fun on the outside, it is extremely smooth on the inside, like much smoother than a single crochet, worked in turn rows would be. So it feels nice on your hands. It's kind of like the perfect stitch. Plus it's stretchy, it has some give to it. It's just, I don't know, it worked out really well for these mittens. So I'm excited to show you guys this stuff. All right, so let's talk about the materials. So first of all, and you may have seen this in the description or also in the pattern download if you've already checked it out, but I am using a yarn that I hand dyed myself. This is like a Speckle dye process. I dyed it with Kool-Aid, and if you're interested in trying that out, I did a tutorial a few months ago where I dyed actually this ball of yarn in that way. with just Kool-Aid. It's very inexpensive, so if you've ever thought, you know, oh, I'd like to learn how to dye, but I don't know, it seems like I don't really want to invest in, you know, all the equipment that I would need, and I don't really, you know, or if you're concerned about, you know, the hazards of using chemicals, well, this just uses Kool-Aid, which you can literally drink, so it makes it much safer. And it is a very fun project to do. I did this with my kids. They loved it. And I know that if you've never done this yourself before, I'm sure that many of you are having your doubts about whether this is actually color safe or not, if you're gonna wear these mittens and come out with Kool-Aid striped hands. And I can tell you that it is extremely color safe. I would not believe it. I would not have believed it if I hadn't been doing this myself. Like the first time I did it, I was absolutely shocked. And now I understand why you know, so many people like doing this. Anyway, it's a very fun process. If you guys want to check it out, the live tutorial is still up. It will always be available for you guys to watch. So that was called, let's see, Speckle Dyeing with Kool-Aid, I think was the name of that live tutorial. And it is linked in the pattern. I did put a link for that in there in case you guys are interested. Anyway, of course, you don't have to use a speckle yarn. You don't have to dye it yourself. You can use any yarn. This is, well, any yarn that's going to get you the right gauge, I should say. This is 100% wool. It's a merino wool. It is a 1-ply, but you do not have to have a 1-ply or merino or wool. You could substitute with acrylic or something like that if that's what you have on hand. It just needs to be a thicker worsted weight yarn or an Aran weight yarn, which is what this is. So otherwise, when you crochet it up, if it's just a regular worsted weight yarn, it's probably either going to turn out too small, or you're going to have like a little bit of air between your stitches, which in mittens is, I don't like that. I like my mittens to be stitched up at a very firm gauge. So that's something to think about. So something that, like, this should be a number 4, but like a heavier number 4, or a number 5 might even work. Maybe a chunky yarn, if it's a little on the thinner side, would work. Oh, we've got some more hellos. We've got a hi from Buffalo, and Louise is saying hi, hello. And we've got a hi from the UK and also Brazil. Hi, you guys. Thanks so much for saying hi. I appreciate that. It's always fun for me to see where everybody is watching from. It's kind of amazing. All right, so, okay, so we talked about the yarn. Let me go back into about how much you need. So there are, let's see, I think there's 5 sizes here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 sizes? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 sizes. Okay, I had forgotten. This is sized for basically a child that's about 4 to 5 years oldish, that size hand, up through an adult extra large. So it's a very wide range of sizes. So you can pick your size. So depending on what size you're making, you will need between 145 yards or up to 211 yards for the very largest size. So you'll need the yarn, you're going to need a crochet hook, and I am using a G, which is a 4mm hook, but you will use whatever hook you need to in order to meet gauge or to get a mitten that fits your hand. I just want to tell you that this is a smaller hook than I normally use for this thickness of yarn. So if you already have an idea in mind what you would normally use for like a heavier worsted weight yarn, pick something that's smaller than that to start out doing your gauge swatch with, because this is something where you want to be crocheting up a fairly tight gauge. You'll need a tapestry needle and a couple of stitch markers, and make sure that your stitch markers, you can distinguish them from each other. So I've got a red one and a green one here. Normally when I am working in the round, I really like to use a red stitch marker for the beginning of my round, and then other colored for the other, whatever else I would need to mark. If you just kind of designate something in your mind all the time as the beginning of your round, it just makes things a little easier. Or maybe you have like a larger stitch marker, for the beginning of your round. If all of your stitch markers are all the same, they're the same color and they're indistinguishable from each other, you can use 2 stitch markers at a time to mark the beginning of your round. Or you can put a little something on it, like, you could mark it with a Sharpie or do some other thing, but you have to be able to distinguish the beginning of the round stitch marker from everything else. All right, that's it for materials. That's all you need, basically just yarn and a hook. Okay, and then we're gonna get started working on the cuff. So I did want to mention too, that if you are new to reading a pattern, that I did do a live tutorial on walking people through all the different parts of a pattern, just to give you like a little bit of extra help if you're unfamiliar with, you know, how patterns are written, how, you know, crochet patterns can be really kind of confusing when you're first starting out and you're learning all the lingo and trying to figure out what all those brackets and parentheses and all that kind of stuff means. So you can go ahead and watch that live tutorial if you're having any problems with the pattern itself, or, you know, ask me questions. Okay, so we're going to start with the ribbing. I'm going to begin with this yarn here. And I'm going to work up, we'll start with the smallest size here. So if you look at your pattern, it says ribbing, and then it says chain 9, and then all these other numbers, these are for the different sizes. I'm making the smallest size, so I'm always going to be looking at the number in front of the parentheses. So these sizes will correspond to the sizes that are listed right here. So in the same order, those are the same, you know, corresponding numbers that go with the same sizes you see here, and also the finished measurements that you can see here in order to choose your size. So I just wanted to let you know that in case you didn't know what the parentheses mean. But there's more, like I said, there's more information on that in that live tutorial. Okay, so we're just going to start with a slip knot on our hook. So however you do that, and then we're going to chain 9 for my size. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we're going to start with the second chain from the hook, and we're going to work into the bottom of our chain. So if you look at the chain, there's a bunch of V's kind of going in this direction right here. If you roll that over, then you'll see all these little horizontal dashes, and that is where we are going to work under for our stitches. So here's the second horizontal dash, remember, because we're skipping the first stitch, working underneath the second one, and we're going to do a yarn over slip stitch right here. So to do that, we're just going to yarn over, insert our hook, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then we're going to pull that same loop through the 2 loops on our hook, like that. That's our first yarn over slip stitch. Let's do that again. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up our loop, and pull that same loop through the 2 loops that were on our hook. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, and pull through 2. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, and pull through 2. So if you guys have been crocheting for a while and you like to do half double crochets, this motion is very similar, but your body is going to make you want to do another yarn over here and pull through all 3. So just try to pay attention, especially at the beginning, that you're not making accidental half double crochets. I think that's the most common mistake when making the yarn over slip stitches, to just accidentally make those half double crochets. All right, so we're going to chain 1 at the end of our row, and I like to chain 1 fairly tightly in this stitch pattern, and then we're going to turn our work like we're just turning a page in a book. And now we're going to work yarn over slip stitches all the way across the next row, but this time, instead of working under both loops right here, we're going to be working under just the back loop. Okay. Oh, and I should mention, in this pattern, when we make that turning chain, that is never going to count as a stitch. We're just never going to work into that. So you're just going to make that turning chain, skip it, and work into that very first stitch, and you're going to work into the back loop. Okay. So we yarn over, insert under the back loop, yarn over, pull up a loop, and we're going to pull through those 2 loops on the hook. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, and pull through the 2 loops on the hook. Okay, so we're just going to continue that all the way across. We've got some more good mornings coming in. Looks like we've got, oh, Molly saying hi from St. Paul. Hi, Molly. Elaine says good morning. Oh, and Cindy's here. Good morning. Just finished a pair of knit mittens last night. It was so nice to see the yarn you dyed make its return to a project. Awesome. Cindy was here for that one. I just got a sampler box of undyed yarn from We Crochet and plan on trying your method to dye it. Awesome. Oh, that sounds fun. Cool. Okay, so I'm just making those yarn over slip stitches all the way across to the end in that back loop. Okay, so there we go. Then we'll chain 1, and I like to chain that pretty tightly, turn our work, and then we would continue doing the same thing. So yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, and pull through 2. So one thing that helps me when I make the yarn over slip stitch, you can see me doing this. I'll yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, and then I pinch my fabric right here to kind of help me get that loop through those next 2 loops. You don't have to do it that way, but it's just, you know, my hands always kind of hop over to hang onto the fabric in a different spot, right there. Pinch and pull through 2. Okay, so that's all you're going to do. You're going to go back and forth, and you're basically making a long rectangular strip. Okay, and your piece should look about like this. So we've switched to a different colorway here. This is this is the yarn that I dyed during that live event, and to me it looks so much like funfetti. It just is making me hungry for a cupcake. All right, so for my size, I did a total of 25 rows. You'll do more for the larger sizes, of course, and that is all listed in your pattern. So when you get to that last row, and you'll notice when you finish with an odd numbered row, so like a 25 or all the other rows that you finish with, 27, 29, 31, all of those are odd numbered rows, an odd number of rows from here to there. And you'll notice your hook is on the same side as your beginning yarn tail. Okay, so that's a little clue that you just did an odd number. And so if you're having trouble trying to figure out how many rows you have here, just know that these sort of peaks and valleys, so like this is a ridge and then there's a valley between, a ridge and a valley. So every time you see those ridges, that means you've done 2 rows. So here's a valley, so that's row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4. Okay, so you can count by 2 as if you just count the ridges. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, and then that last little valley is 25. Okay, so now we're going to seam this together by using a slip stitch. We're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work as if we're going to work another row. Then we're going to fold this in half. We're going to bring the foundation chain, which is where we started, right in front of the last row that we worked, so it's sitting in the front here. And then we're going to seam this through the back loop of the row in front and the back loop of the row behind it. So what that means is, and then also don't be fooled, this ridge kind of wants to pull forward a little. So make sure you know that those V's should be sitting up on top of your edge. Those V's right there, that is the chain that we did when we made that foundation chain. It's right there, okay? So we're gonna put this right in front of the last row we worked. We're going to insert our hook through the back loop of the row in front, and then we're going to insert our hook through the back loop of the row in back, grab that yarn, pull through both, and then pull through the loop on our hook. That's our first slip stitch, and we're just going to continue doing that all the way across, just going underneath the back loop of each layer and pulling that through that loop on our hook, okay? Okay, a couple more stitches left. And you should have the same amount of stitches in the front row as in the back row here. So they'll just match right up. Okay, and that slip stitch row is going to end up on the inside of your mitten, so you're just going to turn it like this. And see how that just kind of blends in? It looks like all the other little grooves, especially after blocking. Once you block that, it'll look even more so. Okay, and so now we are going to start working around the top edge of our ribbing. So that's kind of like the side edge of what we had crocheted up before. So we're going to do round number 1 is going to be a round of just single crochets. Let's see, here we are. So body of mitt, this is where we are on round number 1. Let's see, 1 single crochet into each row end, and then we end with an additional single crochet in the valley between the first and last row end edges. So what that means is we're going to crochet into the ridges and the valleys. Okay, so 1 here, 1 there, 1 here, 1 there. So each ridge and each valley gets a single crochet, and our last single crochet would be here in this ridge, and then we're going to do an additional one in this little kind of valley, basically, between the first ridge and the last ridge, right there. Okay, so we're going to start out in this very first ridge. We're going to place our hook right in the end of it, right in the top of this V up at the top here. And we're going to just make a single crochet. Oops, let me explain single crochet. So we'll insert our hook yarn over, pull up a loop. Now we have 2 loops on our hook. We'll yarn over and pull through 2. And then place a stitch marker in that first stitch so you can keep track of it. I got to get a little more caught up here. We've got, let's see. Oh, Michelle is saying hi from the UK. Hi, Michelle. And Anita says hello from cold Milwaukee. Yeah, it's cold here too, very cold. Great time to make warm mittens, agreed. Okay, Donna is saying, good morning, cute mittens is at a DK weight yarn. This is a heavy worsted or an Aran weight yarn, so it's a little bit thicker, like a thicker number 4. So it's thicker than a DK weight. And we have a hello from Jordan, hello. And hi from Devon. Is that in England? You'll have to let me know. I can't quite remember. And then we also have another hello. Hello to Ola Amir. Hello. All right, so we're working our way around to around this very first round of our mitten, the round of the body. So we did our first stitch right here in that ridge. Now we're going to do another single crochet right next to it in that valley. And then here's a ridge. So we'll do a single crochet here and then a valley. So we're just making a single crochet in each ridge and in each valley because the ridges and valleys, those are each 1 row. So we're going to work all the way around. So, you know, if you did 29 rows, you'd be making 29 single crochets here. And then we're going to sneak 1 more single crochet in at the very end, and I'll show you that in just a minute. Oh, so let me talk a little about our first question that we had was, why do I hold my yarn like this, I think? Or correct me if I misunderstood your question. You do not have to hold your yarn like this. I see sometimes people will wrap their yarn around their finger. Sometimes they just hold it like this. Any way you want to, you can hold your yarn any way you want to, any way that feels comfortable. The reason that I do it this way is because to me, it's I can very easily, by bringing my fingers closer together, I can put a lot of tension on that without actually gripping. And I think that's part of the reason that it, like, I don't want to be gripping something tightly because I crochet a lot. So I want to make sure that I'm holding things like as loosely as I can, but still feel like I have control over stuff. So that's why I do it this way, because I can put a lot of tension here without really having to push my fingers together very hard at all. I'm just kind of resting them next to each other and I can still put tension. And then if I, let them open a little, it slips through. So in this way, I really can kind of regulate how that yarn can come off of my hand and kind of be fed into my project. That's really the reason that I do it this way. But like I said, everyone has a different body and different motions when they crochet. So you just need to find whatever feels comfortable to you, whatever, allows you to be able to crochet without stressing your hands out or getting frustrated. All right, we're almost all the way around here. Here is my last ridge. And now here's that crack between the first and last ridges. So I'm going to do another single crochet right in there. Like that. And now we're ready to start working in our knotted double crochet stitch pattern. So I'm going to take this marker out just for a minute here. When we do that, we're going to round number 2 as we're just making a knotted double crochet into each stitch. So we're going to start over with a yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, and we're going to pull through just one loop on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. So this is similar to that yarn over slip stitch that we were doing, except there's an additional yarn over. So let's do that again. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through the first loop on our hook. Now there's 2. Then we yarn over again and pull through 2. All right, let's do that again. Yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up, pull through the first loop, yarn over, pull through 2. So again, this is similar to a half double crochet, except for the place where we're doing that yarn over. I have demonstrated this before, and a lot of people will say, isn't that just a half double crochet? but it has to do with where you're making that yarn over. So this is, the beginning of it's just like a half double crochet, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up. But at this point, we pull this loop through the next loop first before we make that yarn over, and we're only pulling through 2. Okay, so we're just going to continue making this not a double crochet all the way around our work. And that extra, when we're pulling through that first loop, that's what makes that little knot, that little sort of horizontal bump. And because we're going to be working this in the round, all of the bumps are going to end up on the front side of our work, and none of the bumps are going to end up on the back side of our work. And that's what makes it so smooth on the inside and so bumpy on the outside. All right, let's see, am I all caught up? Oh, we've got a couple more hellos. We got lots of hellos today. Thanks, you guys. We've got someone saying hello from Canada. Hi. And we've got a hi from Italy. Hello. Wow, you guys are from all over the place. That makes me happy. All right, we got a few more of these not a double crochets to do. We'll be at the end of our round. And then we're going to start working on increases. So when we're working, if you've never made mittens before, they're kind of magical the first time you make them because it really gives you an understanding on how increases that are placed in the same place every round can create a different shape. So right now we're just making a tube, but we really want to create some increases here for our thumb so that we have more room for our thumb. I really like the kind of mittens where you have extra room for your thumb instead of like a tube with a little slit and your thumb goes through. Those work fine, and I have lots of those mittens. Sometimes for certain stitch patterns and things, I will use that because it disrupts the stitch pattern less. But as far as the feel of the mitten, I like having that extra bit of a gusset right here so that you just kind of have room to place your, for that part of your hand to stick out. And this makes it nice and close here for your wrist so it stays on really well. So, alrighty. Okay, so now we're going to work those not a double crochets about halfway around the mitten and then make an increase and then work more knotted crochets, knotted double crochets around to the beginning of the round. So here we are on round number 3. So for my size, we're going to make knotted double crochets into each of the next 12 stitches, and then we're going to do an increase in the next 2 stitches. So you'll have a different number for different size. So we're going to do 12 for my size. I'm placing my stitch marker back in here so don't forget. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And then we're going to do 2 knotted double crochets into the next stitch. So 1 knotted double crochet and then another one into the same stitch. So now we have 2 stitches where there was once only 1. So we've increased our stitch count. And the next stitch we're going to do the same thing, 1 and 2. Okay, so we've got our 2 increases here, and increases when you're just adding more stitches, than you had before. I'm going to place a different colored stitch marker in the second stitch of the first increase. Okay, so let me just cover up the last increase that we made. Here's those 2 stitches. I'll cover that up with my thumb. So we're not looking at those. So this was the first stitch of our increase. There's the second stitch of our increase. So that was the first increase. And we're placing a stitch marker in the second stitch of the first increase, okay? So that's gonna help us keep track of where to put our increases. Alrighty, now we're just gonna continue working our knotted double crochets all the way around. Oh my gosh, every time I look, there's someone saying hello from a different part of the world. This is so cool, you guys. We have Hola Rock, Deside, Argentina. I'm sorry if I totally butchered the name of where you live. Hello to Rosa's Crochet. Thank you for saying hi. And we've got a hello from South Africa. And, oh, Donna's saying, isn't that a herringbone stitch? Yes. This is what I was saying before. When you work the stitch back and forth and turn rows, it makes a herringbone pattern, and a lot of people call it the herringbone half double crochet. It's the same exact stitch. It's just that we're doing this in the round. And I've been calling this the knotted double crochet because I saw that years ago in some stitch book somewhere that somebody called this the knotted double crochet. And I really like that term because it doesn't actually look like a herringbone when you work it in the round. But it is exactly the same motions. It's just that you're not, when you do the herringbone stitch, you get that herringbone pattern, but you only get that when you're working back and forth and turn rows because of the way that it makes that little knot. It has to be on this side, then that side, then this side. I hope that makes sense. And we have a hi from Utah, and then Gwendolyn is saying hello from North Carolina. Hi, everybody. Okay. We are almost all the way around. So on round number 4, now that we've placed our stitch marker for the increases, we will know where to make the increase and we won't have to count our stitches. So, but if you are a counter, you're just going to be adding one more stitch before you do your increase, if that makes sense. So here's we're going to start our round number 4 by just making knotted double crochets, and we're going to make them all up until we get to our contrasting marker. So that's the green marker here. So we're just placing one knotted double crochet into each stitch until we get to that green marker. Alrighty, 2 more stitches here. And now we have arrived at our marked stitch. So that we're going to place 2 knotted double crochets into that marked stitch, 1 and 2. And we're going to put that stitch marker back into the second stitch of that increase. And now we're going to do another increase right here. So we're going to do those 2 knotted double crochets into the next stitch right there. And now we're going to continue working the rest of the round with just 1 knotted double crochet into each stitch around. All right. Almost there. Okay, so then on our next round, which is right here, it says rounds 5, or depending on what size you're making, you might be doing 5 and 6, or even 5 up through 7, 5, 6, and 7. You're repeating the round that we just did. So that means you're just working all the way up to the marker. You're going to make 2 stitches into the marker, into the marked stitch, 2 stitches into the stitch that follows the marked stitch. Okay, and then you're going to continue making a knotted double crochet in each stitch around to the end. So you will do that either for round 5, round 5 and 6, or round 5, 6, and 7, just depending on the size you're working on. And then for all of the other sizes, besides the one I'm working right here, you will do 1 more round of just knotted double crochet, so no increasing at all. So that's for every single size except for the smallest size. And then after that, you will do 1 more repeat of round 4. So that would be, that's the increase line. So that's where we do knotted double crochet all the way across, and then we do an increase or 2 knotted double crochets into that marked stitch, 2 knotted double crochets into the stitch after, and then continue the rest of the way with 1 stitch in each stitch around. And then after you've done that repeat of round 4 here, then you're going to just do, no matter what size you're working on, you're going to do a knotted double crochet into each stitch around. So let me show you what that would look like. Okay, if we've done those extra rounds of increasing, you can see how this is getting wider with each group of increases. So we're really shaping that thumb gusset here. And then that last round we ended up with, we're just working even, meaning we put one stitch into each stitch around here. And let's see. I'm trying to remember if I saw, we've got a hi from Utah, a hello from North Carolina, and a hi from Florida. All right, thanks you guys. Okay, so we've basically finished making that thumb gusset here. And then after that, we're going to be working this little section here that says whatever round it is for your size, and then divide for thumb. So what that means is we're gonna work our way around, but we're just gonna start working around the hand portion and not around the thumb portion. So you'll see how that works in just a minute. We're gonna do a knotted double crochet into each of the next either 13, 14, 15, 16, or 17, or 18 stitches, just depending on your size. So my size is the 13. So we'll do 13 stitches here. So remember to keep your stitch marker in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13. And then we're going to skip each of the next either 8, 10, or 12 stitches, depending on the size you're working on. I'm going to be skipping 8 stitches. So this is the part that was like magical to me when I made my very first pair of mittens. I was like, I don't understand how this is going to work. And then I realized, once I did it, I was like, oh, that's so much easier than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so we're skipping 8 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. There's your marked stitch. And we can even take that out. 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so actually I'll put this marked stitch in, or this stitch marker in, just so you guys can keep track of where that stitch is. Okay, so I counted out the number of stitches we're skipping and put a stitch marker there. And now we're gonna stitch into into the stitch right after the marker, okay? And we're gonna do a knotted double crochet. So you might be like, how are we gonna get over there? You just bring this right up next to where you were working. You just kind of pinch that and make your stitch into the next stitch. So there's my knotted double crochet, oops. Right there, just like that. Let me open it up so you can see. I'll take this out of here too. But we just made a regular knotted double crochet into, we counted 8 stitches and made a knotted double crochet into the 9th stitch there. And now we're gonna continue making those knotted double crochets to the end. So you can see what we did by just kind of pinching that together. We have separated this section that is going to be for the thumb right here, and then this whole section that we're going to be working around and around on is just for the hand. That's just one of those kind of funny things where you just have to do it once to realize what's happening, and you're like, oh, that's actually not hard. But I'm not the only one who's had this issue before, because I've designed lots of mittens in the past, and I have gotten this question really often, like, I don't understand how you skip those stitches and then you keep working. Like, I think it's just because you're not used to being, you just don't quite realize you just bring that stitch next to you and stitch into it. It's just one of those things. You just have to do it once. And then you're like, oh, makes sense. Okay, so now at this point, we're going to just start working around and around and around for the body of the mitten. So there's a number of rounds here. There's no increasing or anything like that. You're just working around here. You're no longer working these thumb stitches. You're just going to be working that, right on top of that last round you did a number of times, depending on the size. It's either rounds 9 through 15, which would be for my size, but you might be going all the way up through like round number 23 for the largest size. This is an adult small size right here. Sorry, I just wanted to show you guys some of the pretty colorways that they have in this yarn. So we've switched sizes. This is going to be adult small because I want to keep these. So I have worked around and around and around my specified number of rounds here, and then we're going to start shaping the top of the mitten. So you can always add more rounds here or not do as many if you feel like it's going to be too long or too short. It might be difficult to tell until you actually kind of start doing that shaping and put your hand in here. So I would, if you've never done this before, I would just follow the pattern unless you already know, oh, I know I have long fingers, then, longer than average. Like when I try on mittens from the store, they don't normally fit. Then you could add an extra round or two or whatever you need to before you start doing the shaping. You can always very easily pull your shaping stitches back out and add or subtract these rounds later if it's not working out. I always think of my first mitten as being the one where you figure it out, and then the second mitten is the one where you're like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Okay, so now we're starting to shape the top of the mitten. So we're going to do a knotted double crochet 2 together. So there's lots of different ways to do this. The way that I am going to show you this way creates a little bit less bulk, so that's why I normally prefer this method. So we're going to start out like a normal knotted double crochet. So we're going to yarn over. And then when we insert our hook, we're only inserting it under the front loop of our stitch. So here's the 2 loops of our stitch. Normally we go under here. We're going to go just under the front, only the front one. So we'll insert it under the front. And then we're going to insert under both loops of the following stitch right there. Okay, so we've just inserted it through 2 stitches. Then we're going to yarn over, pull through both stitches like that, and then we're going to pull that through that first loop on our hook. Then we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 to finish up that knotted double crochet. And I'll show you that again. Right now though, we're going to work, let's see, 9 more knotted double crochets. So that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then we're going to do a knotted double. Oh wait, I was looking at the smallest size. Who caught that? Did anyone catch that? I was so used to working on the smallest size. I actually have to keep going because that didn't make sense for me to do my decrease here. It should be over here. For my size, I'm going to be doing 11, so I have to do 2 more. So 1 and 2. That looks better. Whew. Okay, so now we're going to do another one of those same decreases. So we're going to yarn over, insert under the front loop of the next stitch, insert under both loops of the following stitch, then we yarn over and we're going to bring through both of those stitches. So I usually do this kind of in 2 steps, like through the first stitch, through the next stitch, and then we're going to go through that first loop on the hook. We're going to yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, so we've got a decrease here and a decrease here, and now we're going to repeat exactly what we just did on the back side of the mitten. So we're going to start out with a decrease. So yarn over, insert under the front loop, insert under both loops of the following stitch, yarn over, pull through both stitches, and then pull through the loop on the hook, yarn over and pull through the remaining 2. So that's our next decrease. And now we're going to do 11 more for this size. So you have a different number for a different size. And that should lead us almost to the end of our round. We should have 2 stitches left. Let me put a mitten under my stitch marker there. Making too much noise. Let's see, we've got a question. Hooked on Riverside Crochet is asking, do you chain 2 before turning on rows 2 to 25? I'm guessing you're talking about the cuff? Must be. I am only chaining 1. I'm chaining 1 because this, even though it's called knotted double crochet, it's not very tall. It's shorter. than a regular double crochet. And oh, sorry, wait, I'm thinking about the wrong thing. So the yarn over slip stitch is even shorter. It's a very, very short stitch. Because I'm guessing you're talking about the ribbing, because that would make sense, because that's the only place we're turning. I only chain one there. I make one very short, tight chain, and that keeps the edge looking really nice. So you can see we actually, we see that turned edge of that rectangle that we made right here. And if you make that stitch nice and tight, it's going to look a little neater and tidier. Otherwise, there's going to be kind of like little windows here if you make it loose, or if you chain two. I hope that answered your question. Oh, yes, you say yes. Okay. All right. So here we've got only 2 more stitches left of this round. So we're going to do another decrease, the same decrease. So we're going to yarn over, insert under the front loop, and then insert under both loops of the following stitch. Grab that yarn, pull through both stitches, and pull through that first loop on the hook. Then we yarn over again and pull through 2. Okay, that's our KDC 2 together is how I abbreviate it in the pattern. All right, so that was our first round of decreases. And so after that, let's see, for shaping the top of the mitten. Okay, so after that, you would do 1 round of knotted double crochets, just 1 into each stitch around. There's no decreasing that happens in the following round. The round after that, we're going to do another group of decreasing. So let me show you what that looks like after you've worked that additional round of working even. Ignore this thumb, that's not supposed to be here quite yet. Let's see. So this is just after I have completed round number 17, or let's see. Actually, this would be round 20, sorry, for my size, for the adult small. I have just completed that, working even all the way around, and now we're doing another round of the decreases. Okay, so I'll do these a little bit quicker this time. So here's my first decrease. Replace my stitch marker. And then for my size, I'm going to be doing 6 stitches even. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh, hang on a second, let me see. Oh, I must have been reading the wrong, I don't know where I got that from, but I must have been, oh, I think I jumped all the way down here. Okay, sorry, that is also wrong. Not 6 stitches for my size. I will be doing 9 here. So I've done my decrease, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, so this is this round right here. This is round number 21 for my size. Okay, this is the round after we worked even, after we've started the shaping. Okay, so we're doing our decreases here. We started with a decrease. We're working even all the way across until we get to that next section of decreases. So here's a decrease here, right there. And then we're going to do that again because we're repeating the next round. And if it helps you, you could put a stitch marker in that first decrease that you make, just to kind of prompt you on the next round. Oh yeah, this is halfway across. This is where we should be making the decreases. And that'll kind of help you keep track of stuff a little better. You meaning me. I should have been doing that. Okay, so now I'm going to do knotted double crochets, for the specified number in your pattern, the same number, because we're just doing another repeat of this. And then we're going to end with 2 stitches right before the marker, before the beginning marker, and those 2 we're going to decrease together into 1. All right, got 1 more to do here. And now we're going to do that same decrease. So under the front loop, under both loops, pull through both stitches and the first loop on the hook, yarn over and pull through 2. All All right, so we've done our second decrease round. So you can see it's really starting to kind of come in here at the top. It's angling in. And then the next round, we're going to do another round of decreasing. So we're going to start off with that decrease. Whoops, I didn't do my yarn over. Here we go. There's our first decrease. And then we're going to make yarn overs across to like basically one stitch before that marked stitch. If you didn't mark the stitch, you're just going to do your specified number that's in the pattern. For me, I'm doing 8 stitches right here before I do my next decrease. Okay, so there's my last 2 stitches of this side of the mitten. So we're going to decrease those 2 together like that. Put that back in the decrease stitch, and then we're going to do another decrease on this side because we're just repeating that same sequence where we start with a decrease, work all the way across until we have 2 stitches left of this round, and then we're going to do another decrease. Oh, there's our last 2 stitches. There we go. And then we're going to do another round of decreasing for my size. If you had worked the smallest size, you would just do a slip stitch and fasten off, and then you would sew up the tip of the mitten. But for all the other sizes, including the one I'm making, we're going to do another round of the same decreases. So that means we start out with our yarn over, insert through those 2 stitches, pull up, pull through, yarn over, pull through 2, that same, not a double crochet decrease. So we're going to start out there. And then for my size, I'm going to be doing 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, actually, sorry, 5 stitches. Okay, yeah, because 2, 3, yeah, 1, 2, 3, 5 stitches. It's the second number in the parentheses. I got a little mixed up. Oh, here's a tip. Don't do what I'm doing, and you should go through and highlight all the stitches or stitch counts that pertain to your size before you start the pattern. This is a good learning point here. I keep getting kind of mixed up with my numbers, but usually I will go through and highlight that size that pertains to me, and then you're not going to accidentally, keep looking at the wrong numbers, how I keep doing that here. Oops, I've got to do one more here and do my decrease. Here we go. And now I'm going to start my second repeat of that with that decrease. And here we are. And do my decrease here. Oops. All right. And so let's see. I should have a total of 6.5. Yep. So I've got the second number. 14 stitches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay. All right, so now I can go ahead and slip stitch and fasten off. So if you were doing a different size, like you can see, even though I am going to be fastening off here for my size, if you were doing the 2 largest sizes, you would continue making those decreases until it tells you to stop. So just one more round there, and then you just fasten off after that. So I'm going to go ahead and cut my yarn and leave a bit of a long yarn tail, like at least 12 inches or so. And I'm going to make a slip stitch in the next stitch here. And we're going to pull that through to fasten off. And then this will just get whip stitched together. So what I did on my mitten to make it look a little neater is I actually turned my mitten wrong side out in order to do that slip stitch. I'm not going to stitch it all the way across, but I'll get you guys started because I want to make sure that I have time to talk about the thumb, which is next. Let's see, where's that yarn tail? Here it is. Okay. All right, so in order to do your whip stitch, you just want to make sure you're folding that seam nice and flat. You know, it'll kind of want to fold that way anyway because your decreases are here and here, so it'll just kind of want to flatten itself out. And then you're going to go underneath 2 loops of each surface, basically, of each edge, and just do a little whip stitch all the way across. So I'm grabbing both loops here, both loops there. Maybe I'll just do one quick little seam across. I think we'll have time. That's okay. So normally I would kind of do this twice. I would go in one direction, and I like to pull this nice and tight because it kind of gets rid of those little corners that can happen. So I pull it a little tighter, then those corners go away. And then I'm going to do kind of a quicker job of weaving in my ends here, but I'll probably weave it in a little bit better later. Just so I can get that turned. All right, I'm going to leave a little length on here so that I can continue weaving in my end. But you would do a nicer job on yours before turning it back around. And then the next thing to do is add the thumb. Okay, so that's how the top of it looks. Looks really good. So I'm going to hop back to this sample here so I can show you what this looks like. Oh, in the directions, when we did that round where we separated the hand from the thumb, I do have a little note in there to place a stitch marker in the first stitch that you skipped, which would be right here. If you forget, it's not a big deal because you can just look at your thumb, and if you're a right-handed crocheter, you're going to start here and go around. If you're a left-handed crocheter, you would start here and go around that way. So I'm going to pull that out. And let's see, which ball can I use? I'll use this one. Okay, so to start your first round here, you can start by, I think, just placing a slip knot on your hook. Is that how I have you start it? Let me check. Oh, okay, we're just gonna pull up a loop. I do this different ways. It doesn't really matter how you do this. I just wanted to go by what I had written in the pattern. So to just get started, I just place my hook in here and grab a loop, and then I chain 1. And I like to have a fairly long beginning yarn tail because there's going to be a little gap there that you're going to need to sew together later. And then we're going to do knotted double crochets into each stitch of the thumb, so including the one where you just pulled up the loop. So we're going to do that. Knotted double crochet around. And then when we get to the space where the thumb meets the hand, like that little corner, I'll show you what we're going to do. Got a couple more stitches left here. There's our last stitch that we had skipped for the thumb right there. And so now, if you take a look at this, you can see there's this gap where the thumb meets the hand. So we're going to stitch into this space right here. And it doesn't need to go into a super specific spot. I'm going to try and hold this as open as I can. But I'm going to kind of be grabbing in a couple of different areas to make this, otherwise it's going to leave kind of a large gap. So you can do this a couple different ways. In the directions I tell you, for most of the sizes you're going to make 2 stitches there. Sometimes you're going to make 3 in between. So let's see. Yep. So, you know, depending on the size, you're going to place either 2 or 3 stitches in this space right here. For my size, I'm going to do this 2 times. So you can place a double crochet or a knotted double crochet, just kind of, I would not go into a large hole like this because that's just going to make it larger. I would kind of split that a little bit, or you can even kind of make your hook go through, if you can get it through a tighter space, then like that might work well. So you're going to yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up and pull through that first loop, and yarn over and pull through 2 to do that knotted double crochet. Another option, if you're feeling like this is going to leave too many gaps here, is we can do that decrease that we've been doing. So I'm going to take that knotted double crochet out, and you can do a knotted double crochet decrease. So we yarn over, insert through somewhere, grab a loop, insert through somewhere nearby, grab, and then we'll yarn over, pull through that loop, pull through that loop, then pull through the first loop on your hook, yarn over and pull through 2. Basically what we're doing is we're kind of making 2 sections kind of come together when we make that knotted double crochet stitch. We're just sort of sewing them together. I'll show you that one more time right here, right here next to it. So we're going to yarn over, and we're going to put our hook under and grab a little bit of fabric here, and then we're going to grab a little bit of fabric kind of over here. So basically you're just kind of going through it twice with your hook before you pull up your loop through both of those little loops that you went through. Then through the loop on your hook like normal, yarn over and pull through 2. And that kind of just kind of brings it a little bit closer and makes there be less gapping that happens there. If there is gapping, don't worry about it, because you can sew it all together with this little yarn tail. That's why we left it a little bit long. And really it's inevitable to have just, you're going to have a little bit of a gap right here, but that kind of minimizes it just a little bit there. Okay, let's see. Okay, the pattern calls for chain for 2. Oh, does it? In the ribbed section? Oh, it does. That is a mistake. Okay, chain 1 is it? Okay, this chain 2 in the ribbing, that should be a chain 1. Thank you for catching that during this live event. Okay, we will get that corrected. It's not a huge deal, but it's going to make it much neater and tighter if you do a chain 1 right there. So this is back in the ribbing section with the yarn over slip stitch. It is the way I was teaching you within this video, but the pattern is incorrect and it has a chain 2. Thank you for letting us know. I appreciate that. Okay. Alrighty. And Donna is asking what this yarn is. All the information for the yarn is found in your pattern download. It is like a hand-painted yarn. These are actually all the same yarn base. It's the same yarn base that I had used for the Kool-Aid dyeing, but this is something that the company hand-painted. So you can check that out. It's in the download. You can get all of the information, like fiber content, how much it weighs, the colorways, things like that. That's all in your download. Okay. Let's see. When using a pattern, I circle the stitch count with a pencil for whatever size I'm making. Oh, yes. Oh, and then you can erase it and use the same copy for whatever size. That's a great idea. That's from Anita. Anita had a very good idea there. I turned in later. What is the beautiful yarn you're using? Oh, yeah. From Hamburg, Germany. Sandra is from Hamburg, Germany, and wondering if you could get it here. Thank you. Yep, the information is all in your pattern download. It is a yarn. I'll just tell you, it's a yarn from either Knit Picks or Crochet.com. So you can, and they ship all over the world. So you should be able to get it in Germany. Let's see, and Cindy is asking, alternatively, could we turn it inside out and slip stitch through both sides to close the top of the mitten? Said the lady who was using Finchley graft on knitted mittens last night. Yeah, you could definitely do a slip stitch. The reason that I usually do a whip stitch instead is because I can pull that a little extra tight to kind of curve in the very top, so you don't get those kind of cornery bits that sometimes happen when you just sort of stitch it across. But I think that you could, definitely try it. It's only a few stitches. Flip it right side out. Yeah, flip it right side out and look at it. I'm sure it would be fine. That would be a very durable and quick way to do that. That's a good question, Cindy. Okay, so we've made it all the way around, and now we are going to just start working in the rounds to make our thumb. We're going to work a knotted double crochet into each stitch around. So this was the very first one that we did. We're going to yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull up a loop, pull through that first loop on the hook, yarn over, and pull through 2. So you can see that has created this little hole here But like I said before, that's what this is for. We're gonna kind of just weave that in to close that hole up later. All right, so we're gonna continue making those knotted double crochets all the way around. Just like that. Oops. And for different sizes, you'll go around different amounts, or if you have to make any adjustments for shorter thumbs or longer thumbs or whatever you like. So basically, you're just going to keep going around and around and create a little tube. Let me show you what that looks like here. So here we have, I've worked the appropriate amount for my size, the adult small here. And then at this point, we're going to do one more round, and this round is decreasing pretty much all the way around. If you have an odd number of stitches, let me just double check here. Yeah, okay. So if you have an odd number of stitches, we'll just do one additional single crochet at the end. And you may be wondering why I just said single crochet, because this round on the thumb, I decided it looked better if I did an invisible decrease in a single crochet style, so single crocheting 2 together all the way around, because when I tried doing the knotted double crochet decreases around, it just felt like there were too many windows between the stitches. You can try it and see how you like it, but that is the reason I switched it to basically a single crochet 2 together, but I'm doing an invisible decrease. So what that means is I'm going underneath the front loop of the next stitch, then underneath both loops of the following stitch. This is just like the decrease we've been doing, except I didn't do a yarn over first. Okay, let me just back up because I feel like this is getting convoluted. So to do the invisible decrease, you're not yarning over this time, you're just gonna go under the front loop, then under both loops, grab that yarn, pull through both of those stitches, then you're gonna yarn over and pull through 2. Okay, and then we're gonna do that again. So underneath the front loop, underneath both loops, grab the yarn, pull through both stitches, yarn over, and pull through 2. Let's keep doing that. We're gonna go through all the way around the whole mitten until you get back to the very beginning. And for some of you, you will have an odd number of stitches in your thumb, and that means you will have to just do one additional single crochet at the end. So here is my last single crochet decrease or invisible decrease here, like that. And that's it for me. So like I said, if you've decreased all the way around and you still have one stitch left over, you just do a single crochet there. Then we're going to just slip stitch into that first stitch. I'm cutting my yarn, giving myself a little bit of a yarn tail, pull through, and then grab the yarn and pull it through. Okay, so now we just have this little tiny hole here. We've already decreased it a bit. Let's see, here's my needle. So to close that up, just gonna thread that ending yarn tail on your needle, and you're gonna go underneath the front loop of each stitch, just sliding up from the bottom, like this. And I'm not pulling it tight yet. I like to wait until I get all the way around. It seems like I have less of a chance of things bunching up funny and not working. And then I just go ahead and pull that nice and tight to close up my thumb. And then I would poke that to the inside and turn my glove right side out and, wrong side out, and then weave in my ends. And then I wanted to just show you real quick, if you have a hole here, which likely you do, you would take your beginning yarn tail and then just sort of weave it back and forth. Now you can do this with the wrong side facing, or you can do it with the right side facing. I normally leave it right side facing. Where's that hole? This one is not quite as big. There it is, right there. There's my little hole. And I just I usually leave it right side facing, and I just kind of take some little stitches back and forth, kind of sliding it back and forth between that little, between that first stitch of that round and the last stitch, to just kind of get rid of that hole. And then tuck my yarn tail in and go ahead and weave that in on the inside. What did I just do? Okay, there we go. All right. And then I just steam blocked my mittens. You don't have to block them. You can just go ahead and wear them. They'll kind of block themselves, especially if you're in a lot of snow. Let me just hop over here and make sure I have answered all the questions we've got. Let's see. Okay. Brenda, alternatively, oh, I think I've got all the questions. We've got Cindy's question, I believe, was last. Okay, great. I think we've got them all answered. All right, well, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate you guys being so active in the chat and, you know, making comments and also correcting my pattern. Remember that chain 2 should be a chain 1 as the turning chain in the ribbing for the wrist, and we'll get that corrected. But just, you know, if you've already downloaded your pattern, all you have to do is scratch out that little 2 and put a little 1 there, and it should be just fine. Okay. All right, thank you guys so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. I hope you guys have fun making mittens. And just as a quick reminder, I actually do have another live event in about 20 minutes, and we're going to be talking about budget. So if that sounds boring, budget, just know that it's going to be a whole bunch of show and tell and then some fun ideas on how to save money. That sounds better, right? Okay, I hope I see you guys there. Bye, everybody.